Hello. Today we have someone coming on. We're excited to hear his story. He is coming to us from Mendon, Massachusetts, which is just outside Boston.
Right.
Welcome, Dave. Happy to finally have
Welcome.
you.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
We're
Very
excited
excited.
too.
All right, are you ready to get in my time machine with me?
First, we want
Yeah.
to say you're part of our adoptee cafe,
Yes.
a big
Yeah.
part, and we love having you there. And thank you because we're always talking about. So here's someone we see all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
I'm
been
sure he'd
fantastic.
recommend it to other adoptees, wouldn't you?
100%. 100%. It's been I was just talking about this, how like my story's changed because as I talk to more adoptees, I understand myself a lot better. So it's been an incredible experience.
Great.
Well, yeah.
Well, dive in.
All right, we're going to go in that time machine now. We're going to go back 60 years to 1965, Oceanside High School in beautiful Long Island, New York. Okay,
Oh,
so my natural parents, they were high school sweethearts. They met in high school. They fell in love. They had a plan. The plan was they're going to graduate that year, 1965. Then they were going to go to college. They were going to get married. They were going to have a family with lots of kids because they both came from big families. So her family, she was the oldest of six children. Her father was from Spain. Her mother was from Germany. And then he came from a big Italian family. And he was also one of six children with lots of cousins everywhere and the whole bit. So they were big into family. And yeah, they had a plan. So the plan was like the American dream, right? But it kind of turned into American Baby. Because if
oh,
you ever, when I read that book, it was like incredible how similar to my story that was. So
oh,
I think
Such
it's
a
what Mark,
beautiful book. Oh, so
yeah,
oh.
touching.
Margaret Katz was
Mm.
the mother, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
just like Margaret Katz, my natural mother, when she got pregnant that fall, she tried to hide it as long as she could, and she was a very petite woman, and she hid her pregnancy for a long time until the summer of 1966, and then she couldn't hide it any longer. So she went to her parents and begged them to let them get married and keep the baby. And so her parents went to his parents and they talked it over, and the only thing that they could agree upon was that she needed to go off and have this baby and put it up for adoption, and that this would have to be a secret, and they were all sworn to secrecy forever. That's literally
Uh,
what happened. So on August 4th of 1966, I was born.
oh, that's my
And
son's birthday. Good
is
day.
it that
Yeah.
that so I'm gonna that date's gonna come up a few times. It's very
Oh,
ironic. Yeah.
okay.
So so I was with my mother for 5 days. She never signed adoption like release forms, just like Margaret Katz. She didn't sign them until the record said October 31st of 1966.
Oh,
So I got to believe it was like that story. Like she was probably coerced at some point. Like you have to sign these papers. I don't know that, but that's what. How else would you explain that? But regardless, it was New York State, and the way that the standard in New York State was, well, you get taken away after 5 days. So I literally got taken away from my mother on August 9th of 1966. And I like to say this also, knowing this now, like it wasn't just that I was taken away from my mother. It was the state of New York just came in and took away my identity and just buried it. I didn't get my actual birth certificate until last year, just as, for people to realize this. So the only thing that I kept was my name, David. Um, Also similar to the book, right, David?
yes.
So,
Huh.
and this is the story that I found out years later is that my natural mother named me David because she thought that would be a good name for a banker or a lawyer. And I say that to you as someone that has over 30 years of experience in the banking industry. So it's ironic. So, yeah, so on August 9th, I was put in the care of a foster family. And I was actually very fortunate because according to like the records and the research that I did, the family was great. They did a great job taking care of me. It was a mother, a father that was a fireman, and there were three older siblings. And it said that I loved the mother. I loved being around her. I lit up when she was holding me and giving me attention. And also, my older siblings loved playing with me. So I had these older brothers and sisters that I could play with, and everybody was happy, and they included me in on all the family activities, and I was with them for over a year. This
Oh,
foster family. It went so well. I had to kind of piece this together, and this is
Wow.
my conclusion is that because I did get confirmation on this point. They wanted to adopt me. So they wanted to make me a permanent member of their family. And when they went to the adoption agency was like, well, we're already working with this other family, the Verrone family. So, and the Verrone family, Robert and Barbara Verrone, I put some pictures behind me. I don't know if you can see them, but it's sort of like on this. Oh, wait, I got that. Yeah, this side's like the Verrone side. This side's like the other side. I'll explain that
for
later.
our YouTube watcher.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, yeah, so the Verrone family had done business with them. You know, they
Mhm.
adopted a baby girl in 1963, 3 years prior. That's Samantha, my
Wow.
sister, that you know, because
Right.
she's a Patreon, uh, and and they wanted a little boy now. So then, and they were an impressive couple. My adopted father was Ivy League educated. He was an executive with a book publishing company. And my mother, when she was in high school, was the valedictorian. She had been like an executive secretary. So it was this impressive couple. They were a little bit younger, I think, than the foster family. They had less kids, and I think they had established a relationship, so they won. So on October 10th of 1967, when I was 14 months old, I joined the Verrone family. So if you think about this, I'm 14 months old. I've been relinquished twice, and I'm now on my third mother.
Yes.
And I didn't, I think back on this. I'm like, well, no wonder I was really, really shy. I was timid. I had no self-esteem. I had terrible separation anxiety because I probably was thinking, is this how it's always going to happen? Every couple of
Yes.
years, I'm going to have a new family. So it was tough growing up at that young age.
When you're talking, I was thinking, sorry to interrupt, that
Yeah,
it does strike it hard, right? It's like you're with your mother. I was with my mother 6 days. I never really thought about the tragedy of that pulling away from that. Then
yeah,
you're with this family you're bonding with, and none of this is because of, horrible things, drugs and alcohol. And all. This is just passing a baby through for a business. Like it's just crazy
yeah,
to me.
yeah. You'll find that my
Crazy.
you'll find that my story isn't like as um, I guess tragic as some. I mean, it's got tragedy, but
No, but
I when
that's
I
tragic.
there wasn't like I wasn't abused or anything like that. Like I hear
Or
about some
trauma,
people.
maybe
Yeah, right,
better
Yeah.
exactly.
tragedy.
But yeah. So to kind of take you through, I struggled in school as a young child because of this. I had no confidence in myself. It took me a long time to learn how to read,
Mm.
which was especially embarrassing to me because my parents were so smart. And at that point, my father owned a children's book publishing company, and there was books and authors in the house, and I didn't know how to read, so I felt stupid. Um, but my earliest memories of were really 4 years old. I
Let,
can,
let- can,
yeah,
can I ask you
good,
quickly,
sure, yeah,
were they aware that there was trauma? They're an educated
Mm.
couple. Did they have any idea that this might have caused be
that's
been
the
a
big.
cause?
When my sister Sam and I, she's also an adoptee, we talk. We always say those would be the questions we would ask them today because it sure didn't seem like it. I think they really, what you're going to find out is they really lived by the clean slate.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, my earliest memory was 4 years old. I can remember my fourth birthday party and that orange bicycle with the Donald Duck bell on it. I
Oh,
remember, I remember a couple months later celebrating my anniversary. My anniversary was always October 10th, and so this would be 1970. And my father used to buy white carnations and put them on the kitchen table. And I remember there being three white carnations, and I asked the question, "How come there's only three?" Not four. And so my parents sat down with me and they took the opportunity to explain to me that I was adopted. And they said the three flowers are for the 3 years that I've been with them. But there was a fourth year where I was with the foster family, and there was this thing called a birth mother and a birth father, and they explained. I mean, they explained everything to me, but I'm a 4 year old. I don't know how much I like really took in. I can imagine myself being super like nervous and afraid after hearing all this stuff. and worried. And this is what I remember distinctly. And because my parents said this to me many times as a young child, they would look at me and say very affirmatively, "We are your parents. We love you. We will always love you, and we will never, ever leave you." So, of course, that sounds like a great thing. And that made me feel safe and it made me feel loved. And I totally appreciate that. But there was sort of like a dark side to that, right? Like it was burying the past.
Mhm.
So I'm,
I actually think they might have been aware based on that, what Sarah just asked you, because
yeah,
saying that to you over and over, you're obviously showing signs of you think
yeah,
someone's going to leave you.
yeah.
And
It was
am I hearing you right that they would celebrate your, oh, hate this term,
anniversary.
Gotcha Day?
Hmm.
And did they celebrate your actual birthday?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. They celebrate my birthday, but we had the anniversary, they called it. And the sort of simple elegant way was my father bought these white carnations for me, and I think he bought like it might have been roses or something like that for my sister. So that's what they did. So as I mentioned, I struggled in school, struggled to learn how to read. um, and the other thing that would happen in my childhood, I want to note, is that like I became the pleaser. I mean, I was absolutely like, I did not want to get in trouble. I didn't want to know about my past. I bought right into this. I was like, I played the role of, I'm the natural son. You're my natural parents. That's what I want. I don't want change. I don't want any more of this, relinquishment stuff happening to me. I lived for their approval.
And were
I
you still, you grew up out on the island?
actually grew up in Westchester. So I
Okay.
was born in Long Island, and then Westchester, which is about 50 miles north of New York City, that's where I grew up. Um, so yeah, so I mean, I was the classic pleaser, and I didn't even know what a pleaser was until I watched your show, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
And this piece is carried with me my whole life, and I'm really aware of it. And it sounds like a great thing. I mean, like I was the easy one, I was the easy one. My sister was the more difficult one because she was more the rebel. But, she was motivated by the truth and getting answers. I was motivated by fear. I was like, I just didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want their disapproval. And I didn't get in trouble a lot because I was a rule follower. But when I did, I would cry. I was like the crybaby, sort of understandably, right? But I can remember like getting in trouble for silly little things and getting punished and just crying. And it would drive my parents crazy, especially my mother. My mother looked at it like I was feeling sorry for myself. And she would literally say to me, "Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Don't you dare feel sorry for yourself." And it was almost like a way of saying, "Why aren't you grateful?"
Mm.
Like she didn't say those words, but that's kind of how it like resonated. And as young as I was, I do remember thinking like, this is crazy. I'm crying. I'm not doing this on purpose, and
Mhm.
obviously I was crying because I was afraid. I was afraid of the disapproval. It wasn't anything to do with, feeling sorry for myself. So, this was sort of the challenge of my young childhood. Things started to get better for me when I was about 7 years old. When I was about 7 years old, it would be like in gym class or in recess on the playing fields. My classmates realized like I could run really fast and I could jump high and I could catch the ball and throw the ball and like all the things that you need to do to be good at sports. That was me. And now they wanted me to be on their team. So that certainly helped with my self esteem. My parents were smart enough to see this going on and they really encouraged it. And throughout my whole childhood, they encouraged me to play sports, which was great. I can honestly tell you that like being involved in sports kept me out of trouble. I don't think it's an understatement to say that it might have saved my life because I don't know what would have happened to me if I hadn't had that outlet and that self-esteem builder that sports was for me. So, and the other thing that was going on was my mother was reading me books because I still didn't know how to read. But she started reading me books about sports. And I was thinking about this the other day because it was in the news. Hank Aaron, the All
Okay.
Star game was in Atlanta. So she read me this book about Hank Aaron, who in that time, 1974, became the all time home run leader. And I loved the story. It was exciting because it was going on at that time. And his story was this black man growing up in the South. He had to deal with prejudice and bigotry. And it just resonated with me as like someone that like was different and had to persevere through it. And I love the story. He became my favorite player. My parents let me stay up that night when he hit that home run. And I was hooked from that moment on. I love sports. And from that moment on, I learned how to, they got me a tutor. I learned how to read. And by fifth grade, I was doing well in school. So those things kind of helped to get things kind of turned around for me. And then when I was 10 years old, my parents got divorced. So, and my sister was 13. She was a teenager and she was going through the rebellious years. And it was really, really hard on both of us, particularly my sister. And what happened, it was, I call this like the Civil War, because my sister and my mother could not handle my sister. So my sister moves in with my father. I stay with my mother, and then this whole family got like split up, like grandparents and aunts and uncles, and even like friends of the family. It's like, what side are you on? You know?
Were you
And
and your sister close at that time? I know you're close.
no,
But no,
we're
okay.
very close now, but back then it was probably at its worst. It was,
Yeah.
she used to pick on me, but I was a doormat. You know, I was like the typical, like, I didn't stand up for myself, and she picked on me, and, you know, it was not pretty. The silver lining of the divorce for me was that I actually got to spend a lot more time with my father, because I saw him every weekend, and I'd have like one-on-one time with my father. And I would also see him a couple of nights during the week because my mother was going back to school to get her degrees. So he would go to all my games. He would take me into New York City all the time. He would bring me to Yankee games, and he'd bring me to plays and musicals, museums, out to dinner, movie. Like, he added culture and color to my life. It was amazing. I loved those years, and he became my best friend at a time when I like really needed it because of the whole confidence thing. So it was all good. And then I can remember being 14 years old. So this would be like 1980. He took me out to dinner to give me some exciting news. And the exciting news is he's getting remarried. And now I was legitimately happy for him, because I knew that he was lonely. He wanted to get remarried. And the woman that would become my stepmother, I really liked her, and they had a lot in common. She also worked in book publishing. And so I congratulated my father. We're in this restaurant, this big crowded restaurant. I congratulate my father, and I go back to eating my dinner, and I feel these tears welling up. And it started off like, oh my God, he can't see me. I can't, I don't want to upset him, and I don't want to embarrass myself. But it got so bad that like I had to bury my head, and we had to leave the restaurant. It was that bad. Like, people must have thought something happened to me. And I can remember being in the car driving home, and my father he wasn't mad at me. He was just concerned. He was like, are you okay? Is everything all right? And the crazy thing about it, guys, is that I had absolutely no idea why I was crying. I didn't know. And so I've thought about that day so often in my life, and only recently have I really been able to put it together. Because, the simple answer is, well, I was afraid I wasn't going to see my father anymore. But the much more complex answer was, I think this is what was going on. This comes from Primal Wound, okay, after reading that book. I honestly think that what was going on physically in my body was my body remembered the relinquishment and just reacted to it. And mentally, what was going on was I was trying to access, why am I crying? And I didn't know, because it was shut off. Like, that part of my brain was closed off. I had sort of successfully brainwashed myself, like anything prior to the adoption didn't exist. So that's why I didn't know. Yeah. And that wasn't the only time that's happened to me, but that's the one that really stands out to me. Like, that would happen in my life, where
That's a big thing you're saying, like making that connection. I'm sure Sarah's thinking it too. I'm remembering times in my life, like, oh yeah, I was overreact.
How
right?
like sometimes you cry, but sometimes it's like a different kind of crying. It's like this, like from inside, like
Oh,
your whole
yeah.
that's what it was like. It was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Ugly crying, I think
Ugly.
that's the
Yeah.
term.
Well, and you
Yeah.
feel like something's wrong with you. I remember laying in my room and my family being like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, and you're like, "What is wrong? I don't know." And
And
it's
they don't understand.
like you're making connections for me, and I have a podcast with Sarah about this.
Mm-hmm.
But that's big.
Mm-hmm.
That's big. Makes me sad.
Yeah. And my sister and I talk about this, like, why didn't they see this? Like
Yeah.
my father didn't see it. I mean, he was concerned about me and he didn't connect the dots. He just didn't. So anyway,
No.
moving forward, if we go to 1984, that was a big year for me. That's the year I graduated high school. I got into college. I got through high school because of sports. You know, I just made friends and just stuck on that track, stay out of trouble. Now, one thing I forgot to mention before is my father had health issues. He had really bad lungs. He had lung disease and he had been a smoker and just, he was always struggling with that. Like he wasn't the father that was out there playing catch with me. He couldn't do that. I taught myself everything. Like I just watched games on TV, played with my friends. And then that summer, he got really, really sick. He had to go to the hospital. And I can remember I had a summer job, and my mother picked me up from work that night, and she was just trying to break it to me. Like she was saying, "It doesn't look good for Dad," and I could just tell by the way she was, like her tone and her body language. I'm like, "He's gonna die. I just know this," you know. And I can remember like crying myself to sleep that night, and then waking up the next morning, and this craziest thing happened. Right, I felt I was sad, but I felt this calm, almost like peacefulness come over me. And the only way I can explain it to you guys is it was like I was just accepting the fact that, okay, my father's going to die. The same way I accepted that I'm never going to see my natural parents again. I am never going to see my foster parents again. I was really good at that. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I was just good at it's like, you know, the serenity prayer? I got
Yeah.
on the
Yeah, of
wall here. It's
course.
like, you know, God grant me the serenity, accept the things I cannot change. I was really good at step one. You know, actually doing something about it, not so good. But um, so, but in this case, I actually did do something about it because I remember waking up that morning and getting dressed, taking a shower, and walking all the way to the hospital. I didn't have a car back then. I walked to the hospital, take the elevator up to my father's room, and I saw my dad, and I just told him, I said, I just how much I loved him, how much I cared about him. It's coming back to me right now.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to do this. That was the good. A lot of people don't have that opportunity.
No.
You know, people just die suddenly. But I told my father, you know, I told him he was my role model. The last thing I ever told him was that I wanted to be just like him. And I meant that. I really did. I had this thing about my father that like, even though I knew, you know, like he wasn't my real father, I always felt like he was Italian, just like I'm Italian. And I kind of convinced myself this. I used to look at him and think I'm going to look just like him. We were about the same size, same skin tones and things like that. Anyway, I told him, I said, I want to be just like you. That was the last thing I ever said to him. 2 weeks
Mhm.
later, on August 4th, there's that date again, 19.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. That's loaded.
yeah, 1984. I turned 18 and he passed away on that day.
Gosh.
Mm,
Yeah. So
sorry.
I, yeah, thank you. I was, again, I was sad, but I was like calm. Everybody else was devastated because he was only 49 years old. Like we knew with his health issues, he wasn't going to live a long life, but 49, no one thought that was going to happen.
Right.
And a few days later, you know, we had a memorial service. I raised my hand. I'm like, I want people to know about my dad. So I got up there in front of all these people. I had no notes. I spoke for like 20 minutes and I got through the whole thing. I don't know how I did it. I was just
Wow.
like, again, had that sort of calmness come over me. And then 4 weeks later, I got to go to college. It's September. I'm going to Syracuse University, which was about 4 hours away, 240 miles. My mother drives me to school and, you know, moves me into my room and takes me out to dinner and tours the campus and all that. And then I give her a big hug and I turn around and start walking away. And the way my mother told the story is that she was petrified. I mean, I remember bringing my kids to college. I mean, it's just like enough to just drop your kids off and drive away. But my father had just died, you know, and she was really worried. But she said, the craziest thing happened. You gave me a hug and you turned around and I kept waiting for you to like wave or something. You just kept walking. And I think it was very symbolic. What was actually happening was I was walking away. I was like ready. I'm like, I'm going to have my own clean slate right here because I need to live my life now. I was sort of done with being dependent on other people and all the stuff I had to go through. And I was grateful, don't get me wrong, but I was like, I need to do this on my own terms now.
Yeah.
So I went to college, had a great 4 years, made friends, grew a lot. It was great. After college, I moved to Boston. I've been there ever since. It's funny because I didn't intend to stay here, but I'm still here because when I went to Boston, I went to graduate school, I got a job, I met my wife. My wife, Marcy, and I got married in 1994, 10 years after my father died. We're still married, 31 years, happy. She's downstairs
Yay.
with the dogs.
That's rare. Good.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. And it hasn't been easy. She's a saint. I mean, one of the things about being a pleaser, it sounds great. It sounds like
No,
you're
it's not.
easygoing,
Oh
but
no, pleasers not
yeah.
great. It's not
Well,
great.
learning this about myself has helped me because one of the biggest challenges I've always had is like, as a pleaser, you're so focused on other people. I
Yeah.
want to make my wife happy. I want to make my kids happy. And then inevitably you make a mistake, right? You do the wrong thing. You forget to take out the trash. Something happens. And, the person gives you some constructive criticism and you just explode.
Yeah.
That's the way I
Well,
am. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I'm so, you're going to pick on me and, that kind of thing. So,
I think ultimately pleasing is a way to shift the focus from yourself.
I do too.
So you don't have to deal with your stuff.
100%.
Whatever
That's
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
both saying is so resonating. It's very, and it's not easy to be in a relationship with an adoptee, a pleaser. It's just not. I feel for my
Yeah.
ex-husband sometimes because I thought it was all him, and now I'm like, no, not so much. It's
Yeah.
same. I go through that.
right.
I'm lucky. I'm very lucky my wife stuck with me because I was not easy in the beginning. Oh
I'm still
gosh.
not easy. I try. I do try.
I feel like I'm getting better, but it's a challenge.
Can I say one
And
thing while we're
yeah.
off this? You were talking about how you kind of had the acceptance and with your dad and the thing. It's funny, there was two emergency room nurses who are adopted who were talking that I know personally, and they were saying that they figured out they're drawn to that crisis trauma. That's an easy part to be in. And I know Sarah
Mm-hmm.
and I have had that too when we're like our best under pressure and
Mhm.
crisis, and
100%.
me too.
Yes.
I'm the best that way. It's more when things are, I mean, that's actually where I think a lot of adoptees are policemen and firemen
Yeah.
and emergency room and even just thrive
Yeah.
on busyness and trauma. And I think that's something you touched on that's bigger. It is.
Things that are out of my control, I'm fine with.
Me too.
Things that I feel like I should be in control that aren't going well.
Yeah.
What's a challenge for me. Yeah. So,
So,
yeah.
and were you still close to your adoptive mother at this point?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. In fact, I got closer to her after my father passed away because she's all I had. And yeah, I don't want to give her a bad shake because I don't talk about her like in my story, but she was great. Absolutely. And I'm very much like her. I say like I want to be like my dad, but my dad was this really creative genius guy. My mother was an accountant, right? And here I got into banking. I'm very like logical and organized. So yeah, my mother was and here's the other thing. I it was my fault that I never talked about this. My parents would have talked to me, but I was afraid to bring it up. I always thought, for instance, it would be a betrayal to my parents if I ever tried to find
That's not your fault.
my
I'm going to push back on that
yeah.
because when you were younger, they very definitively told you you are ours. So you didn't
Yes,
really feel safe to bring it up.
you're right. You're right. And I
You're
think
just like me. I say the
yeah,
same thing because my parents were so awesome, but they didn't talk to me about it. And there
I
wasn't that safe to talk about.
I
And
can say
Louise's dad, in fact, said, "You're mine. I
You're
didn't pick you."
mine. Yeah,
So
he was
there is all
upset when my
that.
family found me. Sarah's right.
I could see my father saying that if he was still around. My mother was actually very supportive.
Yeah.
Both my sister and I found our biological parent, and she was like excited about it. She was really like into it. So I'll say that. Um, so getting back to my story, my wife got pregnant in 1998. Our first son Matthew was born in April of '98. When my wife got pregnant, this is where, for the first time, I'm like embarrassed to say this, but it's the truth. It was the first time I ever thought of my natural mother. I never thought of it before that. I never thought of like what she must have gone through. But seeing my wife pregnant, my wife had like a difficult pregnancy. It was hard, and I'd never experienced this, right? And watching my wife go through this, and the whole time I'm like, I can't believe my natural mother went through this alone, had to hide it, and then had to just go off alone and then relinquish her child, have her child basically taken away from her.
Yeah.
I knew at that point, I was like, if there was some way I could pick up the phone or write a letter or visit her or do something, I would have done it. Absolutely. And my thought was just to let her know I'm okay. You don't have to worry. That was my thing. I didn't, even then, even until recently, I didn't have this burning desire to find my biological family. I was afraid to do that. I didn't want to mess up anybody else's life. And I was like, I feel like I'm happy. I don't want to mess around with this. But my mother, that was a different story. My natural mother, I really felt like I would have loved. And, if I was adopted in like Alaska, so reading the book, right? Reading the, what's the one, Practically
Oh,
Almost a
oh,
Virgin.
oh, Monica. Yeah.
Yeah, Monica's book, and she was in Alaska, and it's talking about at 18. If I could have gotten that information at 18, my life would be so much different. I would have been able to. You'll hear from my story, but it's it's a frustration of mine because New York was so strict. I couldn't get anything. I did things like I contacted the adoption agency, and they gave me non-identifying information. I put my name on all these registries, and it just didn't go anywhere. But I know that you could have done things like hire an attorney and like petition a judge, and that just wasn't me. I was the rule follower,
Yeah.
and and I was just like, and I was worried about, again, like upsetting somebody else's life, so I just didn't do those things, and I regret it. But anyway, so my son Matthew's born, and it was the most incredible day of my life to have a child that was someone that was related to me. I could look in his eyes, and it was amazing. And then 3 years later, we got to do it all over again when my son John was born. So I had two sons, and I was in seventh heaven. They were both really good at sports, just like I was. And I was the father that was playing catch with them and showing them how to play. And I coached a lot of their teams, and it was amazing. It was like I was absolutely thrilled to have that opportunity. So I'll fast forward to when Matt turned 18. So Matt turned 18 in 2016. And here's the ironic part. When Matt was born, I was 31. Same age difference, almost to the day of my adopted father and myself. So when Matt turned 18, I'm 49. So I remember taking Matt out to dinner. He was in college at the time. I took him out to dinner, and I said, this is a special day, not because you're 18, but also I'm 49. I am the age that my father died at. And so every day, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die anytime soon. Every day that I have on this planet is a day that my father didn't have. It's a gift. And I vowed at that point, I'm going to find out who I am. I'm going to find out where I came from. I need to do this for myself and for my kids.
Yeah.
So it was at that point that I bought a whole bunch of DNA kits, right? Prior to that, I thought about it, but I was a little nervous about it, putting all my information online. But then I was like, what do I got to lose? I'm literally living a longer life than my father. So I did it, and it was amazing how quickly this all kind of played out. One of the ones I did was 23andMe, and a month after I sent in the DNA, I got this email. I was at work. I'm like, oh, excited. I drove home. I got on my computer, and I got that long list of relatives. Most of them are like distant cousins, but there was one name at the top of the list that was a first cousin, and I'm like, I looked at it and I didn't know what to think. It was not an Italian name. It wasn't a Spanish name. I was like, I don't know, whatever. I'll type in and see what
What side was
happens.
it on? Paternal or maternal?
It was on my father's side.
Oh, okay.
So, but what it was he was the cousin son of my father's sister. So, I put the name in, and one of the first things I find was an obituary. His mother, his mother, my presumed at that point aunt, had passed away 3 years prior, 2013. This is 2016. And obituaries are like gold mines. I mean, there's so much
Yeah.
information in it, right? So I've got my non-identifying information on the table, right? So I knew things like my father was Italian. He grew up in Long Island. I was born in Hempstead, Long Island. He was one of 6 children. That's the kind of stuff I knew. The obituary talks about the aunt that passed away, and it was ironic. She died in Massachusetts, which is where I live now, but she was born and raised in Rockville Center, New York. And like I had to look that up, and I'm like, oh my God, that's right next to Hempstead, Long Island, where I was born. And then I looked. Her maiden name was Marino, and I'm like, okay, that's Italian. So now my heart's kind of like thumping. And then I'm like, oh, how many siblings does she have? And I remember counting them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and she's 6. 4 girls, 2 boys. And I'm literally, now my heart is like completely pounding out of my chest. And this is happening real time. That's how quickly it happened. I'm like, one of those boys could be my father.
Yeah.
I type in the name Robert Marino and I get a bunch of hits come back. One of them is a Facebook page. I click on the Facebook page and like whoosh, this picture comes up on my screen. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I called my wife into the room. I said, Marcy, you got to look at this. Tell me, does he look anything like me? And I look at her face and her jaw drops. He's like, he looks exactly like you. And I'm like, well, I guess that's my father. This took like 15 minutes.
Isn't that insane?
Yes. 50 years and then 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Just crazy. And I'm just like on overload. I'm just staring at the computer. She grabs her computer, goes in the other room and just like every 5 minutes, oh, I found you got a brother, you got a sister, there's a niece, there's a nephew. And I'm just like, this is too much. Yeah. 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 Oh, she's been amazing with the whole thing. I mean, that night I tried to sleep. I couldn't. I woke up in the middle of the night and just started writing this letter because I'm like, and this is the letter that all the adoptees try and write, right? Like the one that's like, I don't want anything. I don't need, could you just confirm this? You know, like I was still very concerned about, I don't want to turn this guy's life upside down, but now it's right in front of me. How do I, you know, I got it. And most important, I wanted to find out about my mother. I wanted the name. I wanted to contact my mother, his high school sweetheart. So, you know, I wrote about 20 drafts of this thing. I had people proofread it. I was so careful. This is the most carefully crafted letter ever written. And I put it in the mail and I thought for sure I'm going to get a phone call in like a day or two. Nothing. Crickets.
How did you get the address?
Yeah.
I don't know how I got, like somehow I just did a search like back then. I think it's harder now, but back then it was like they had like the online white pages or, you know, like I found
real
an
estate.
address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
where was he living?
in Long Island still.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Not far from where he grew up. So yeah. And you know what? I sent it. I probably shouldn't. I would not recommend people do this, but I did. I sent it FedEx because I'm like, I want to make sure it gets there. It gets signed for. I want to make sure it's received. And so, and it did. So I'm like, well, he's going to call me, right? Nope. Nothing. 3 weeks go by.
Why wouldn't you recommend the FedEx?
I think when I've heard people say this, like and people that are in the biz kind of recommend like have someone that like a friend call on your behalf and you know like introduce the topic. I think that's the right way to do it because you can scare people. You're going to hear what happened, so it's going to kind of.
I was just curious.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend writing the letter. I mean.
Well, I've done the letter snail mail and I got the same result. So
Yeah.
No FedEx. I thought of FedEx.
FedEx probably not good either. So I had three weeks go by and then got nowhere. So what do I do for 3 weeks? I spent every waking hour online trying to find out stuff. Now I've got his name. So there's a really cool website out there called Classmates. Have you guys ever heard of that?
Yeah.
It's amazing because you can get the actual yearbook, like the online version. Yeah. So I had the 1965 Oceanside High School yearbook. Wow. And I can remember thinking, my mother's in this yearbook. I just got to find her, you know? And obviously my father's in there. So I put his information, obviously I talk about my natural parents as I keep going back and forth with that. So I put Robert Marino and it's like, he's all over. He was like big man on campus, right? He was the quarterback of the football team. He was the captain of the football team. He was like played lacrosse and baseball and basketball. And I'm laughing to myself. I'm like, I had so convinced myself like the whole sports thing was because I just played sports with my friends and I watched it on TV. Well, it was in my blood.
Yeah.
And my kids too. My kids were great at sports. So that was pretty cool. But then I spent most of my time searching for my natural mother.
They didn't have any pictures together or anything in the yearbook? That's
what I was looking for. And I remember, this is my memory of it because this is still a little foggy. It's 2016. But I remember going through all the girls in his class and like looking for ones with like Spanish last names because I knew her father was from Spain. And I would look at the pictures and like, I don't know if you can see it, but the one that's like right over my shoulder on this side, she's very pretty.
Aw.
So yeah, I would look at pictures and then I'd look them up online with their names. And so I came across this woman, this girl, Paula, and I looked her up online and I found out all this cool stuff. Like she had a PhD and she was a college professor and she had four children and she was married 42 years and she got married in 1968 to Robert Marino. Yeah, so they got married. They got married 2 years after I was born.
And those are your full siblings.
Full sibling?
Full
Wow.
siblings, yeah. And so the story is they got married in 1968 because he couldn't stand being away from her. You know, he was in college. He came back. Then he had to go to Vietnam. He survived Vietnam, which was no easy feat.
No.
And
My
then,
father too.
Yeah, and you know, so he's like a real Vietnam veteran. And they had a family. So the siblings were born between 1973 and 1980. So they're all like 8 to 14 years younger than me.
Really is American baby. Sad.
It is. This is the other sad part. This is the sad part now because I found an obituary.
For him or for her?
For her. She got cancer when she was 63 and she died in 2010. So I missed her by 6 years. I found this out. I can't remember exactly how I found it out, but I found it out around the same time. And I just dropped to the ground. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was so upset. And, you know, I went through all the emotions. I was sad. I was angry. I was angry at myself. Like, why did I take so long to do this? But then I was like angry at like New York State and the adoption industry. And why did they make it so damn hard for me? You know, because that's all I wanted was to find her. And then I couldn't. So, and then on top of all this, my father still hadn't gotten back to me. 3 weeks go by. So I decided to write him another letter. This is like kind of short and sweet. And it was just, you know, I sent my condolences now that I knew that she had passed away. And I thanked him for his service. And I just said, like, I thought this was a nice thing to say. I said, at this point, if you could just, you know, confirm this information, I just want to feel more complete. And, you know, maybe if this all works out, we could be friends. That's what I said. So I sent the letter and then I finally get a response 3 days later. Now, I get the letter, I open up, I start reading it. And immediately I know this is not good because the letter is not written by him. It's written by his girlfriend. And she was a lawyer. And I tell you that because it read like it was like a legal document.
She's all worried about you coming in for money or something.
Maybe it was, I think it was more like she was mad because she didn't know because it was a big secret. So she said in the letter things like, while I can confirm that he is your biological father, in no uncertain terms does he wish to have any kind of relationship with you or any further correspondence, and he urges you to immediately cease investigating his life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Then she like proceeded to like lecture me on adoption. It just yeah. Like the dagger at the end was like, she said the very thing that you're.
Can we call her to lecture her on adoption, please?
I only saw.
I don't think this is the end of the story.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. It gets better.
I'm just mad.
Yeah, no, I know. This is the bottom, but it gets better. So, but this is important. At the end of the letter, she said this thing. She said, the very thing that you're looking for to feel more complete is the very thing that would compromise all the relationships that he had worked so hard to build in his life. And that's the reason adoption was set up the way that it was.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it was cruel, but you know what? I'm going to be honest. That part of it was true. Mm-hmm. Like, I just want to say this loud and clear that closed adoptions, 1960, even to some degree today, but certainly closed adoptions, baby scoop bear, that was the reason for them. I mean, they were designed specifically to protect the privacy of the parents at the expense of a little baby that has no representation whatsoever. That's what happened to me.
Yep.
No one ever said that. My parents never said anything like that to me. That would have been helpful, at least maybe when I was old enough to understand that. They never said that to me. That's the truth. So I was angry. I wanted to let go of this. I wanted to just move on with my life because this is what I was afraid of. See, I didn't want to turn anybody's life upside down. And I can remember like I couldn't kick it to the side. It was just hanging around. And all I could think of doing was I went to one of my best friends. I had a friend, his name was also David. He was just a wonderful guy. He's since passed away. He was older than me, but he was just a great friend, the type of guy you could call and just like spill your guts out to. And I called him. I said, I got to tell you this story. And I told him the whole thing. And this is what he said to me. He said, so you've got 4 siblings with the same mother and father? And I'm like, yeah. And they don't know you exist? I'm like, yeah, it was a big secret. And he's like, and how old are they? And I'm like, and at the time they were like late 30s, early 40s, and I was 50. And he's like, okay, Dave, this is the deal. Listen to me carefully. You need to do what's right for you. Stop worrying about other people. Your siblings have just as much of a right to know about you as you do about them. So what are you waiting for? He said this to me.
I love him.
Everybody needs a friend like that, especially
Yeah.
a pleaser.
Yeah.
We need to do, and this is to all the, I listen to so many of your podcasts. This is to all the other adoptees. Do what's right for you. Don't listen to these people who are just thinking about themselves. You got to do it because you know what? If you don't do what's right for you, you end up hurting other people. And when you do what's right for you, you can help other people. Mm-hmm. You can be the best version of yourself. So thank God for my friend David. So this is what I did. I'm like, no more letters. I'm just going to make a phone call. Now, fortunately, I got 4 siblings to choose from now. And one of my siblings, like our mother, she still is a professor at a state university. So it's like all public information. And I'm like, and she's a professor. She's gonna have an open mind, right? So I call my sister Cindy, and I knew exactly what I was gonna say. I had it all scripted out because I'm like, I got to sound like this isn't some kind of scam, right? It's hard to to do this. So I called her a few times. I got her voicemail, and then finally one day she answered the phone. And I was all ready to go. And like, I make presentations and stuff at work all the time. I've spoken to hundreds of people. I'm like ready to go. And then, but I heard her voice and I almost hung up. I was like, oh my God, that's my sister. Like, it was the weirdest feeling. So I sort of stumbled my way through this call and said what I needed to say, which probably helped in the long run to make it more genuine. She listened to the whole thing. And remember, she doesn't know I exist. She doesn't even know she's got this brother. She listens to the whole thing. And she says to me, I think Mom would be so happy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Dave. Seriously.
It still gets to me just to say it. Like, I waited my whole life to hear that.
Yeah.
So,
because she's speaking from your mom, like she knew your mom, right? And what her mom would have, she's not dealing with the dad and the girlfriend blockade.
Yeah, she knew exactly what her mother was like. And everything that I've learned about my natural mother is that she was just like unbelievable nurturing person that would take everybody in. She had like taken pets and friends and things like that. The household was always full of people. So I'm sure this all had an impact. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It just echoed for a second. So the rest is history. I mean, I a few months later, I met all of my siblings. They're all wonderful people. I have 7 nieces and nephews. It's so cool because everyone's like 10 years younger. So it's like having these extra kids in your life. My wife has loved it. It's been great. We get together for all the occasions.
Do they all live close to you? Are you all in New York?
Well, I live in Massachusetts.
I'm sorry, you're in Massachusetts. Yeah. I know that. Yeah.
I have 2 brothers on Long Island and 2 that are in North Carolina now. So it's I wish I could see them more, but we do. Yeah, we make an effort on holidays and special. Last weekend, I was at a graduation. My niece graduated high school, and I met my father's best friend. It was awesome. He told me all these stories. And before I forget, I did meet my father.
Okay, that's what I was just going to ask.
Yes. So I credit my sister Stacy. She was very close to him, and it was really hard for him, losing his wife. And, she was everything to him, and he kind of went into a shell. And that girlfriend, I'm not going to get into it. It's just, let's just say it wasn't good for everyone. But he was happy with her. I don't want to judge. But I got to meet him because Stacy worked on him and got him to the point where he was comfortable meeting with me. And I made it very clear I'm not about blowing this thing up. I respect everyone's values and so forth. So I got to meet him and I spent a day with him and it was amazing. And he was nothing like the letter. That letter was not him. That was not his voice at
Good.
all.
Good.
Yeah, he's actually he died last year.
Oh,
But I met him in 2017 or 2018. He's an amazing guy. Very different than my adopted father, like, but in a good way, just different. Like he's this rugged guy. Like he's a Vietnam vet and he was an athlete. And it was I'm sitting there and staring at him the whole time, and he looks just like me, but he doesn't sound anything like me. Like he's got like the Long Island accent. And but he's just a great guy. We had a lot of mutual respect for each other. I got to thank him for everything, and just yeah, I'm just so glad. I felt really at peace with being able to meet with him. But
did
but
he
the
tell you anything about when your mother and he had to put you up for adoption and any of that? They were still close during that time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I can't remember exactly. Like it was a hard time, certainly,
Yeah.
for both of them. And obviously, they loved each other. They got back together, and they got married. When I met his best friend just last weekend, he gave me a little bit more insight how upset my father was. He told me the story about how like he went into his room and just broke down crying, like he was so upset about it. This was his lifelong friend.
Yeah.
So I mean, just like a really loyal guy. He had friends from third grade that were his friends his whole life. And like an amazing, amazing, like soldier in Vietnam. Like he was saving people's lives. And he was only like 22 and he was in charge of all these like 19-year-olds.
Wow.
So yeah, just incredible guy. Won all these
Wow.
awards and stuff. So anyway, that's pretty much the end of it. The other thing I want to add to it though is that a lot of my growth, like most of it, in the last 6 months, watching all the podcasts, being part of the Patreon group, reading the books, has been amazing for me. Just like I feel like I've got such a much better handle on everything that happened to me, and I can be the best version of myself. And I want to thank you guys. You guys are
Oh,
awesome. I can't wait to see you guys in
I
September.
know.
I know.
We're gonna
Dave,
see you.
this has just been such a heartwarming story, and thank you so
It's
much for
happy.
sharing. It's really I'm so happy that how it's all worked out at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like we knew little things from our cafe talking, but I'm like, wow,
yeah,
it's big, because
yeah,
when you said, oh, I didn't have as much trauma, that's massive trauma as a child that sticks with us our whole lives.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Dave, for coming
Thank
on.
you.
You're
Gosh,
Thanks for
welcome.
sharing.
thank you. See you soon.
See you soon.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.